Cool. So welcome back to the podcast. And on today's episode, I've got a good friend of mine, Lee Meacham, from the Albion Foundation. And I just thought it'd be wicked to get on a podcast today and just talk all things helping young people to thrive in a coaching environment. And I thought, why not Lee? Because Lee's going to have amazing amounts of experience talking about this. And we've already had a chat about what we wanted to speak about. And we thought, how amazing would it be and how empowering would it be to talk about just three things that allow young people to thrive in a sporting environment. Now, from my background, Lee's background, it's going to be football based, but this could be from any sporting environment. But before we go into that, Lee, do you want to just say a little bit about what you do currently? Because I know you are doing a multitude of different things at the moment.
Yeah, firstly, thanks for the invite, John, and it's obviously great to catch up and speak to you again. So my job role at the moment is Workforce Development Officer at the Albion Foundation. So that entails a few different things. So one of the main areas of my work is looking after our student program. So we've got some apprentices that I look after at the foundation. And we've also got a USW degree program in partnership with University of South Wales. And the aim of those two education programs really at the foundation is to get young people through their education and hopefully ready for employment at the end of their education. Hopefully that's with us at the foundation, but it doesn't have to be. You know, these young people have got lots of different varied goals. So as long as we kind of get them work ready, that's kind of our goal. But like I say, if that is with us at the foundation, it's an added bonus. On top of that, I look after the CPD offer at the foundation. So we've got around 80 full-time staff. Many of those staff are what we call deliverers. So that might be football coaches, but it's also sports coaches, PE coaches, behavior mentors, and then obviously we go into coordinators, managers, etc. So I look after the CPD for that. So that includes inset programs and just continuous development throughout the year, whether that's workshops, linking them in with other people, apprenticeships for themselves. So yeah, lots going on within my current job role.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I think it's very different from when I was there, leaving back in 2006 now, which is crazy, and it's come a long way. You know, when you're speaking there, like got 80 people, you know, delivering and doing all sorts of things. That's it just shows how far that the foundation has come on. So it's amazing, and a lot of lives being changed because of the positive work that you're doing and giving everyone amazing opportunities. So with that in mind, Lee, as we said, we want to talk about creating an environment allowing young people to thrive. And tomorrow is a very exciting day for me because it would be my first actual football and mindset academy. So that starts tomorrow. And for me, and I'm sure it is for you, what we're trying to do as coaches and facilitators, mentors, whatever you want to call us, we want to create an environment where young people from many different kinds of backgrounds, many different levels of ability and skill can thrive. Okay, so we had this idea of coming together with, let's look at just three things that allow those young people to thrive in these sporting environments. Now, one thing that we did say on our previous conversation is that can look very different from, let's say, an academy setting to something that is trying to help and support young people to have a positive impact on their life, whether that's with a community group, whether that's with lowering crime in the local area, deprived environments, that kind of thing. So they can look very different. So let's look first of all at that kind of academy level. What are those, let's look at those three things that we can look at that's going to allow those young people to thrive.
Yeah, so I think it's probably important to say first that I have worked at kind of all levels of the game. So I've worked, from grassroots football, community football, right up to kind of academy levels in the boys and the girls game. So, and as I said, the chat today is probably based on my experiences at all kind of levels of the game. So obviously you mentioned academy there. I've worked in the boys and the girls academy, and I think a successful environment in both of those regions looks completely different. The girls have different needs to the boys, and the boys have different needs to the girls. So I think, first of all, for me, it's creating those relationships. So I guess you need to create a safe space as a coach, because those relationships will go between you as a coach and the player. It might be between you as the coach and the parents. And it might be to create an environment where the player and the player can have a really good relationship as well. And I think if you can get that right, that does create that safe space. It also builds trust in the players, again, going both ways. And from that, you can really either start to have a really fun environment, or, as you mentioned, in an academy setting, it's more of a learning environment. But you definitely need to create that relationship to get the players on board, so you can create that learning environment, as we're talking in an academy setting now.
Yeah, I think that really resonates with me, because I'm sure we've all been in those situations where that young person may feel under pressure not to make a mistake, or what they possibly perceive as a mistake, or doing something wrong. And that, as we know, just stops that young person from expressing themselves, whether that's pressure from the parent, if they're around, or pressure from other young people within the group, or whether from the coach. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, they need to know straight away that they're in a safe space, that if they mess anything up, or they fall short of anything, that's okay. That's what they're there for, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, as the old saying goes, you learn from mistakes, or you should learn from your mistakes. And again, I think it's very different in an academy setting. Yes, you can make mistakes, but you need to fix that mistake very quickly in an academy setting. Coaches want the best for you. You should want the best for yourself. Your teammates will want the best for you and will push you in that academy setting as well. And you've got the multidisciplinary team around you, sports science. You got the physios around you to help, your head of coaching. So there's lots of people in an academy setting that makes it quite intense. So, as you said, the players can feel pressured, especially when they've made mistakes. But it's about how they react to that, and that's what the coaches want to see ultimately, how they react to those mistakes.
As a coach, then, Lee, if you can think back on one of those situations where you saw a player kind of fall short of where you feel they should be, do you remember how you've gone about that, addressing that, and like triggered their idea of like, look, this has happened and this is how we're going to learn from it? Can you remember back like an experience where that has happened and how you went about it?
Yeah, I guess first of all, it's about approaching the player and seeing what's going on with them, because it's the same with anyone, not just players. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. So it might be that, for example, SATs might be on if they're a year 6 player, for example. It might be that if they're a Muslim player, they might be doing Ramadan, for example. Yeah. So an example of that was when I was in West Brom's academy. I was coaching a player who was fasting.
Right.
Now, I wasn't aware that this player was fasting. So in the session, as you do, you're pushing the player to try and be the best they can, want intensity from them, and you want, fast ball speed, etc. And he just wasn't giving it me. And I pulled him to the side and I asked the question. I said, "Is everything okay today?" I said, "You had a tough day at school, is everything okay?" And he says, "Lee," he said, "I've just got no energy." He says, "I'm fasting." He said, "It's the first time I've fasted because of his age." And he said, I'm just finding it a little bit difficult. And, I said to him, I said, "You need to come and tell me this before the session starts, so I'm aware of it." I said, "I understand it's your first time fasting." I said, "So you might not be aware of that." I says, "But your coaches need to know so we can put things in place to help you while you're going through that period." So, once we had that conversation, it was fine. We put a plan in place for him. So his sessions were a little bit less intense going through that period. And we also managed his minutes on game day as well. So yeah, I think first of all, just speak to the player, because
Yeah.
9 times out of 10 you'll get the answer there. If that's not the case, you might have to go and speak to parents.
Mm.
And again, I think that's why it's important to build great relationships with parents as well, because ultimately they could be the key to, you know, unlocking the information that you need about their child. So yeah, you could go and speak to parents if you know you need to find out more information. But yeah, I think ultimately just go and speak to the child first, or the player, and go and see what's going on, because they ultimately will know the answer.
Yeah, and then I suppose then from just having that conversation, the trust and the relationship has just grown from there. And then they're at ease and they know they can expect it when this happens again. You know, you are expecting it as well. And it just breeds that supportive environment straight away then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I always remember, like, you know, even the littlest things where we see them as little things, but they're not that little, where like a player may turn up late just because of traffic, you know, or like, you know, mom or dad was late home from work, and then they know they're going to be late, and that just really can have an effect on that young person, and then that can affect their approach to that session and where their head's at. So yeah, we have to be really, really aware of that, even just the smallest of things, of just being late and in traffic, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I think when I was at the girls' academy, I used to use it like a band system.
Right.
So it was just a red, yellow, or green band. And as the girls arrived at the session, they would put a band on depending on how they were feeling, what day they'd had. So I knew if someone put a red band on, I'd need to go and address that straight away, because they'd had a bad day or they might be feeling anxious about something. Again, if they put a yellow band on, I might just ask if they're okay.
Right.
And, you know, 9 times out of 10, it might be go, yeah, I'm just a little bit tired. And then obviously a green band, oh, what you done today? And then, you know, you're still engaged in that conversation because they've clearly had a really good day. So you want to find out. And again, I think allowing them to express themselves, how they're feeling before the session, and then that breeds that conversation, whether it's what's happened today or what have you done really good today, either side of the spectrum, you're still creating that relationship and being interested in their lives away from football.
Yeah, I like that. And that reminds me of I remember being in a school environment, and we had quite a few students who were highly autistic, and they had color on the desks. They had color like cards, and they would put forward how they were, very similar to that traffic light, you know, sequence.
Yeah.
So that I remember that, and that was really, really helpful. With that, does the other, in that particular situation with the bands, so did the other players react to that? Like, see a player with a red band and go, oh, and did they go and comfort that person, or did they just get on with stuff? It'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, I don't know how it would work in a different environment, but at the girls' academy, with the group of girls I had, it worked brilliant because they were so supportive of each other. So if they did see someone with a red band, say for instance, a few of the girls would go over and, you know, they'd start chatting, and it would just kind of get rid of all that stuff that someone might have in their head before the session even started, so they could focus a little bit more on the session. But yeah, the girls were fantastic at kind of helping and supporting each other with that. It was really good.
Cool. So that first one is all about environment, creating that safe environment. You said that player to player, player to coach, even coach to parent. That you create in that environment that open communication can happen.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Cool. Second one then, Lee. What?
I've got wrote down here, and I suppose it does link to the environment. It's standards and rules. I think you need to set the standard of what you want as a coach, whether that's behavioural, whether it's kind of standard of the session that you want, the intensity of the session, for example. Because I think without those standards, people are unsure where they stand. They're unsure where the boundaries are. And that can cause for chaos within your session. Whereas if people are kind of on the same page, they know what the standards are, they know what the boundaries are, again, that allows you to have that environment where you can go and have fun, or you can go and learn, depending on, you know, kind of what setting you're in. Yeah.
No, I love that. And that's one of my, I've created like 11 principles, and one of them is standards.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because if we can create high standards in the sporting environment that we've created, I think it's really empowering that they know, that young person knows that they can take that standard into the other areas of their life. And I just love that. It's like, there is no reason why this standard that you are showing us here, which is, by the way, outstanding, you can take that standard into school environment, home environment. If you're trying to, keep your cool with your siblings or whatever it may be, and I just absolutely love that,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, does that go down to like being on time, like getting to the session just a few minutes before, like getting there early, you're organized, you're ready, you got your kit, all of that as well?
Yeah, I think those are probably the brilliant basics. I understand, if we're talking about young players, then, as you said, getting there on time might be out of their control if parents are bringing them, for example. But, we still encourage players to get there early because then they can prepare for their session. They can get a little bit of extra training if they want to. They'll all have a ball at the feet, so they can go and practice a little bit whatever they want. Timekeeping, as you said, wearing the correct kit, having your boots and your shin pads in a football environment, for example. Just those brilliant basics, going to shake your coach's hand before you start.
Nice.
All kind of brilliant basics that kind of set the fundamentals for those standards that you want to achieve within the group.
Yeah. I love that. I think the one thing I missed when in my younger days of coaching was, expecting those standards. Like, I think it was, as a coach, I wasn't clear on what that looked like. And I suppose that comes in time and experience.
Yeah.
But I think as a coach now, I think it's so empowering and kind of alleviates a lot of guesswork and, can I do that? Should I do it this way? Or change? When you set those high standards, it alleviates a lot of that guesswork for me.
Yeah.
It's like, why shouldn't it be here? Like, if it's not, and we're full, okay, fine, let's dig into that. But I think, why not set the bar high? And then I think that the player knows where they stand, the coach knows where they stand, and if the parents are in the vicinity, they know where they stand. They know what it should look like.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's critical to kind of set the expectations straight away. As soon as you get a new group, or as soon as a new player joins that group, a new parent joins the group, set those expectations, because then, like you said, it's clarity for everyone then.
Yeah. It's funny because, as I said, tomorrow is my first academy session.
Yeah.
I haven't got many at the moment, still building it. But my mindset piece is standards for the first session. It's like, we're going to be talking about that. I'm going to take them through drills and do some skills and stuff like that. But it's all about, this is the standard, we expect standards, and go into that. So I absolutely love that. And what I want them to realize is, it doesn't matter if we're doing 5-yard passes. It doesn't matter if we're doing 20-yard passes, if we're doing close control, turning, like, it applies to absolutely everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, because I just think that's a life skill. Like, how empowering of a life skill is that, to go, no, that's where I operate. And then knowing that I can take that empowering feeling that I felt of that standard being high into my school, into my college, into whatever, I think it's so powerful.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's like you say, it could just be the little things like getting the players to pick up the cones at the end of a session. As you said, in terms of relating that to real life, it's cleaning up their plate after dinner, simple as that. And, these basic standards are just giving them, like you say, life skills outside of the sport they play.
So powerful. I just think, I wish I think, thinking back when I was a young player, and I think if someone had told me that, or made me see it, like, I know I wanted to do good, but I didn't know, I didn't know what that looked like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you only know what you know, don't you?
Yeah.
And if you're not told that this is the standard, or you're not told this is the right thing to do, or even the why is so important. So, players think, oh, I'm picking the coach up for the coach again. The coach is lazy. Well, actually, if you take a couple of minutes to explain to the players, this is why I'm getting you to do it, because you can transfer these, as you say, standards into in everyday life.
Yeah.
If the players know the why, they're more they're more going to buy into and what you're trying to achieve, aren't they?
Yeah, and it just opens up those conversations for like, well, what are your values? What are your principles? Manners, respect.
Yeah.
Like, it's just respectful that we all come together and pick the cones up. So respectful that we all get our ball and put it in the bag. Like, it's like they're the values that we hold and they're the standards, you know. So yeah, I absolutely love that, mate. And what was the third one?
The final one, I think, if you've got a safe environment, you've built great relationships, you set the standards, then I think it's all about enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't enjoy something, you're not going to want to carry on doing it.
Yeah.
So, it's about you as a coach making sure that players are having fun, whether that's a little bit of a joke about, your favorite football team before the session starts, or whether it's creating a fun, engaging session for the players to actually take part in. But yeah, I think, having that fun element, that's going to keep players wanting to come back, wanting to learn, want to develop, like I say, ultimately keep coming back to that session.
Yeah. And I think because that's why they're there in the first place, because they enjoy this thing, whether it's football or cricket or tennis, whatever it may be. So we don't want to get rid of that. As soon as you get rid of that, it becomes, and I'm sure we've seen it as coaches, with like, they don't want to be there. And that's so sad that they've lost that. They've lost that enjoyment piece. Is there anything particular that when you're planning out your sessions that you make sure you do to ensure that that fun piece and enjoyment piece is in?
Yeah, I think there's two. I'm going to look at it from a grassroots community type view, but then also an academy side view, a more elite view. So I think if your grassroots community-based sessions, it's all around that social. So are your players having a chance to socialize with their mates that are at that session?
Yeah.
Because some players in that community grassroots environment only turn up to have a kick around with the mates and, catch up with their mates and see what's going on within their friends' environment. If you spin that on its head and go to an academy environment or a more elite setting, I'd probably say competition.
Right. Okay.
If you add competition into your session, 9 times out of 10, it's fun. If you scale that down right to a basic level, a tag game. Everyone loves a tag game because you chase each other, you're trying to evade the tagger, or you're trying to tag someone. And it's just that cat and mouse type situation that I don't know why, but humans seem to love it when they're playing games. And it could be a simple tag game. It could be like a version of British Bulldog as we played back in the day. So it could be anything like that. But as long as you've got competition in there, I think players are engaged.
Yeah. I saw a little clip on social media of Pep. You've probably seen it. And he's at Man City. He's got like the first team in a circle.
Yeah.
Like, elite players, international players. He's got a ball. And when he bounces the ball, they have to clap.
Okay.
So he's then tricking them so he doesn't bounce it and like they clap, like, and then they're out the game. And you're thinking, this is Pep Guardiola at Man City with international players, the best of the best, and he's having fun with them.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure his thinking behind it is like, if I can get them to relax and enjoy and have a laugh, they're only going to express themselves even better, in the session and then on a Saturday.
Yeah, 100%. And if you look at that little simple game that you've just described there that Pep was doing, you've got the social element because they're all together, they're having a laugh as a team. But there's competition in there. There's going to be a winner. So, that winner's going to, ingest, joke around and on the winner, etc. And, they'll all have a good laugh about it. And like you said, that encourages a great environment for players to then go and thrive.
Coming away from football just for a second, and I've worked with many people in the gym environment, and I've seen so many coaches kind of like try and get a client to do a movement that they just can't do.
Yeah.
Like, let's take a split squat or a Bulgarian split squat where your rear foot is raised on a bench and you're trying to do a split squat. Now, for most people, anyone, like, that's hard. And the amount of times I see coaches try and get a client to do that, and like they're wobbling all over the place. You can see the dread on their face. It's like, what? Why would you do that to somebody? You know,
yeah.
Like, they're finding this hard thing difficult already. Like, and now you're trying to get them to do this horrible thing that they don't feel good at doing it. It's the quickest way to turn someone off of trying to get them to express and do well and develop.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, the lack of motivation after them trying to do that and feeling awful about it. It's going to be through the roof, isn't it? So
unbelievable, yeah. So I absolutely love them, mate. So creating that safe space, that safe environment for close connection, know that you've got their back. They can express themselves and that connection. Love that. Standards, that's brilliant. Taking that into every other area of their life.
Yeah,
and enjoyment.
Yeah,
absolutely love that. And I'm pretty sure, like, if you can take those three things, you're going to create an absolutely powerful environment there.
Yeah.
So I love those. Now, we've spoken a lot about that academy setting, that those environments where people may have paid quite a bit of money to be at. What about, how does that differ to, let's say, those community-based sessions, whether it's free sessions, whether it's initiative-based sessions, or underprivileged young people who may be a little bit more trickier to manage and support? How does it differ for you there?
Yeah, I think the fundamentals are still the same, where you've got to create that safe environment. You've got to build those relationships. But as you mentioned, that might be a little bit more tricky. They might have had different or greater challenges within their life that stops them getting closer to people, for example, and opening up and trusting people. But I think, you've still got to set the standards high. That might look a little bit different because they might need a little bit more freedom to express their feelings. As long as that's in a safe way, then I think that's fine. I mean, something I've used in a primary school setting, for example, when doing some PE teaching, is that a really challenging school, a great school, but a really challenging one, different cultural environment to what I have grown up in. So when I first went into this school, I really had to I was pulling my hair out first 6 months.
Yeah.
And then I had to learn why some of the children were behaving or expressing behavior in the way they were. And to do that, I had to get to know their culture, their home life, what kind of their religious beliefs were and why they believed in that. And once I got to do that and understand them as people a little bit more, that allowed me to teach them in a better way and set standards that were more suited to them. And something I used to use was behavior bingo.
Right. Okay.
Start of every lesson. So when I first started it, I would put 6 boxes on a whiteboard, and I would put in there, no shouting out, put your hand up if you want to talk, using quiet voices when walking through the corridor to the sports hall, for example. And I'd fill these 6 boxes with little tasks around managing behavior. And if they completed all 6 to a relevant standard during the lesson, they'd all get a small prize from the class teacher when I took them back to class. And as with everything, it took a few weeks to embed that and them to understand that. And, once they saw that little reward, they were more inclined to do it. And in the end, it was, we actually gave them ownership over it. So they would put in the boxes what they'd want to achieve behaviorally in that lesson. And it worked really well. So, it was just a case of sometimes you do have to try different strategies when you're in a community setting, because, as mentioned, some of the challenges that some of these young people have are phenomenal. And, we need to kind of realize that not everyone's the same and we have to adapt to their needs.
Yeah, yeah. And what you said there with that game that you created there, you are literally incorporating a safe environment that has structure, which most likely a lot of those children hadn't had or
Yeah,
got
yeah,
in many areas of their life.
yeah,
You've created standards, like this is how it's going to be here. So we've got structure, standards, and then it's enjoyment. So you've really taken those initial three that you gave us and then adapted that to support, different culture, different social setting, all sorts, haven't you, really?
yeah, 100%. And like you say, them doing that allowed them to then go and enjoy their PE lessons more,
Yeah,
go and have more fun, get the reward at the end of it. So
yeah,
it worked really well. And it's something that I encourage our young coaches to use if they're ever in situations like that when they
yeah.
go into schools and stuff.
One thing I was going to ask you as well, Lee, in these situations, and I've faced it before, and when we are working with these more underprivileged social settings, is they almost feel that they have to prove something to you, almost to give them a footing in their social standing. So, like, I mean something, and that then can come across in poor behavior. How do you build that kind of like trust and that respect in those environments? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like, I'll be interested to know how do you know what I mean? How do you create so they know that you're okay? You don't have to prove anything to me. You can talk to me. I'm not going to judge you. It's all good. How do you go about breaking that down? And
Yeah, I think first of all, it's that ultimate first meeting point when you first
yeah,
meet that person. It can be a really open conversation about and trying to find something they like. So a really easy one if they're wearing a football shirt,
yeah,
West Brom, for example, if they're wearing a West Brom shirt. And you start talking about that because then it's something they feel comfortable about. It's a subject they know about. So they feel more comfortable talking to you about it. So I think that's a really good start. Finding something they're interested in. If they do step out of line, or show a behaviour that doesn't meet your standards, then what? Again, I'm stereotyping here, but what normally happens with these young people is they normally get shouted at, or it's quite a volatile kind of interaction. Yes. So if you just take them to the side and just have a quiet chat with them, why did you show that behavior? Was there anything that kind of triggered it? And just have a normal conversation with them. They seem to respect that a little bit more because it's something different.
Yeah.
They're expecting you to shout at them.
Yeah.
But if you take them to the side, have the quiet conversation, they're more likely to, oh, this is a little bit different. And, they explain the behavior and explain why they've done it. And it might be that you'll see a pattern. And then as a coach, you can understand that pattern and try and, put a barrier in that to stop that happening. And then obviously they won't react in that way again. I think there's that side of it. But then there's also the positive reinforcement. A lot of these young children, again, as I mentioned, is they only get spoken to when it's something negative. So if they do something good, use positive reinforcement to praise them for it. And again, that might be strange to them, but it might be something they're craving.
Yes.
So I think a quiet word on the side, to what they used to, and positive reinforcement.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of the big ones that I find, and you can literally see the change and shift in their demeanor and their eye contact, you get eye contact, is if when you say something very simple of like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? Because I'm pretty certain like they may not get that question put forward to them very often. Like just somebody saying, are you okay? Like, and not in a contradictory kind of way, but just in a concerning, leaning in way. Like, I just want to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah. And I guess the first few times you ask that question, they might not open up.
Yeah.
But the more you ask it, the better relationship you build with them. They might then start to open up, after a few weeks, a few months, and you really break that barrier down, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think. Do you also think that they are also in a real big need of like knowing why we're doing particular things? Like, because for me as well, I think it's always really important that, like, I want to know why we're doing it. Like,
Yeah.
why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Like, what's the outcome? And I think if they can link up like the skill of something to the outcome of like scoring a screamer outside the area, like top bins, they
Yeah.
can, if they can link it up with that outcome, you know, or putting a tackle in and, you know, whatever it may be, like they go, oh, they buy in. And I think a lot of the time it's like a lot of like, I don't know why are we doing this? You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think as humans, we all want to know why, don't we?
Yeah.
You know, we need to know the reason why we do something. Otherwise, the brain thinks, well, why are we actually doing it if we, you know, if there's no reason to it? So I think explaining that why is really powerful, and it's a question I always ask when I'm coaching. So I might ask a question, but then I'll also ask the player, well, why?
Yeah.
Why? Because then that checks for greater understanding. And, you know, if we understand something more, we've got greater clarity. So we're more inclined to, like you say, put more effort in, you know, and commit to what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. Was there anything else in those settings, those particular settings that you wanted to share, Lee?
I think it's just the other one that sticks out to me in terms of community setting is and behavior stuff is that if a young person is of a certain age on paper, they might not be of that age mentally. So another good example is I was in the same primary school I was talking about earlier, and we had a young girl in year 6, and I didn't teach her in year 5, so it was kind of my first contact with her in year 6. And she struggled to follow instruction. She was always kind of messing around and trying to make other people laugh, or, you know, doing something. She was always doing something.
Yeah.
And the more I tried to stop that, the kind of worse it got.
Right.
And again, it was just one day where I was just having a conversation with her, you know, how's things, blah, blah, blah. And she opened up a little bit about home life. And although she was only 10, 11 years old, she had a lot of responsibility at home. She had to do some cooking. She had to do some cleaning. So I'm thinking, hold on, in my head here, she's actually telling me that she's probably more like a 15, 16-year-old in her home environment.
Yeah.
So the next few PE lessons, I started giving her some ownership over some of her friends that I knew would respond to her.
Right.
So it might be, this is your task. I want you to go and lead, you know, your little group over there, and I want you to almost be a mini teacher. And giving her that ownership and responsibility just got her hooked. And from then on, she was absolutely fantastic. So just by having that little conversation and understanding that, okay, by looking at her, she's a 10, 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Having a conversation and realizing the stuff she has to do at home.
Yeah.
Let's try to give her some more ownership then and see if she responds. It worked. And, you know, I guess that could go the other way as well. You might see a 10 or 11-year-old, but actually, you know, mentally or maturation wise where they're at might be a little bit lower. So, don't always be kind of tricked, I guess, by the age group that you've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maturation levels are going to be at different things. And, you know, if you've got strategies to combat that, then that's going to help you as a coach in the long term.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. Like, you literally took that girl to a level that, she was capable of, and just gave so many answers to her behavior.
Yeah.
And
it was almost like I won't challenge her enough. She was almost bored because she's used to a certain level of responsibility. So I was given a responsibility that I thought was normal for a 10 or 11-year-old, but actually that wasn't fulfilling a need. So giving her that extra responsibility, like I said, it just managed that behavior. And, you know, there's always a reason behind people's behavior, and you've just got to unlock that and find out what it is, and put strategies in place to help them.
See, I think that's really powerful, because I think more those kind of like teenage behavior, those really challenging environments we've been in, you know, and you're like, I've got to be on my toes here. We've got to make sure we can control this behavior wise, because it could overspill into something nasty, perhaps. You know, we've all been in those situations, and letting them know that you believe that they are capable of more, I think is really powerful. Like, so if you pull them up on something, you're pulling them up on something because you know you've seen something within them that tells you they're capable of more.
Yeah.
And I think that's so powerful because they may not have seen that themselves.
Yeah.
And they may not have had anybody in their life go, oh, wow, you're capable of this. Did you know that? Like, and I think as a coach, I mean, like, you're changing a person's perspective of the world there and where they sit in that world. You know, you can elevate them massively.
Yeah.
And I think that is so powerful as well.
And ultimately, that's our job as coaches, isn't it? Coaches,
Yeah.
teachers, mentors, whatever it is, that's our job, to try and help people progress and fulfill their potential.
Yeah. Yeah. See that thing within them that they can't see and
Yeah.
pull it out of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
go, oh, yeah. It's like, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. And I think these conversations, Lee, are really, really powerful because I think as well, a lot of coaches, mentors, teachers, you could quite easily feel like you're on your own.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know what to do here. You know, this is tough. And it is tough. And I think hearing the stories that you've told, you realize that you're not alone. Everyone's going through this, you know, and there is always a way. And look, I'm not the finished article, and I'm sure you'll say the same. You're always learning. You're going to come across situations that you've never come across still to this day, and you're going to have to figure them out and work through them. That's part of being a great, empowering coach. I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like I said, we're always learning, and if you do come across a situation that you're struggling with, just ask. You know, I say to my students all the time, if you're unsure, ask a question to someone, because someone's going to have been through it. Someone's going to know the answer. Someone's going to know a strategy to help. Just be brave and ask someone and speak and talk.
Yeah. I love that, Lee. Thank you very, very much. A very empowering conversation. And I believe, as I said, a lot of coaches take a lot from that. So if anyone wants to get a hold of you or is interested in what you do, because look, you at the start of the conversation, you mentioned a lot of things. How can someone do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way to do it. So it's just Lee Meacham on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to contact me. Like I say, if you want to, whether it's just a chat or you got a question, or you know you're interested in something that we do and I might be able to help you out, just get in touch via LinkedIn.
Awesome. Cheers, Lee. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, John. Thanks, mate.